Okay, motor's back out. Seems like there was something wrong with the interface between the pilot nub and the back of the crank. We couldn't turn this independent of the motor, like the two were like squished, but it wasn't touching these. So something down here was interfering too closely. So I'm going to take a good look, but I think we're just going to give it a polish. I got some paper there, and we're just going to polish it out and see if we can get the, I don't know, we measured and we're within like 100th or 2 or 3 or 4. It's pretty close, but there's interference. I really don't think there should be, so we're going to do some measuring and some cleaning. Stick it back in there. So it goes. Sometimes it has to come out. So our caliper is battery delete. No worky. But if we do this, we run it over the widest part of this cleaned snout, so that come on, give it a little bit. Here goes. Make it tight. Okay, so here's our measurement. Okay, without making any change, we don't need to know the number. We just need to see that when we put it up to this back of this motor, that it slides in. It slides in without moving, right? That means that it's going to fit. Now come back down, verify that nothing moved. It's close, but it does go. And there was some corrosion. I think that was enough. There was a ridge where we were trying to force that. Anyways, now we're going to lubricate everything and slam it together. Wish me luck. So you can see. All right. So, steady progress. Motor in car, bolted to transmission, and torque converter bolts installed. The converter came together. I was tightening one side, and then I turned it over, and when I tightened the other side, it went boom, and it came in. So it's in, mated properly. All the bolts are tightened up. As tight as you can get it with Loctite. No, though, I don't like Loctite. I just put them in real tight. And we'll have to do another torque sequence once it's run. I want to make sure they're all tight. Those are important. I dug in the pile and found an old Mopar starter, the big heavy kind, but it ought to crank this over. We're not running high compression or anything, so it had some water in it, so I took it all apart, blasted it all out, got some rust out of it, whatever, stuck it back together. It ought to spin real good. Alright, here she is, brand spanking used. Everything moves freely like it should. It's greasy, that's always a good sign. Well lubricated, tight, and connections are clean. This should spin right up. So we have to bolt her in there, and then we'll be able to turn the motor over with some jumper cables if we don't feel like cranking on it. But without an intake or a carburetor, there's not much point to spinning it around. And a distributor, still a lot to do. So let's get at it. In case we didn't get a good shot of this before, this heat riser pocket has been MIG welded off with a plate. That's an Uncle Tony's Garage special. Also, there's a diverter for warm-up. That has been eliminated and welded up as well. That's pretty standard. You know, that messes with drivability, but we aren't in the cold climates, hopefully. You know, if it's bad weather and it doesn't want to start, we'll drive something else, so it's not such a big deal. It should warm up. We'll work on anything. If it needs help with warm-up, we'll figure out some kind of heat diversion to get her going. So the factory stuff has kind of been eliminated, and I think we're ready to just kind of slide her on there. Let's go. These triangle washers and nuts, gently pressing against that gasket, it generally works until it doesn't. The major things that I've seen that mess that up is if your exhaust is mounted solid to the car right after, the motor twisting and the exhaust trying to hold, it'll mess that gasket up because it's not real thick or squishy, but actually a little bit thick and squishy is better. There's supposed to be a raw engine torques. The exhaust is mounted with the engine, and then you got a lot of flex going back. You want to use rubber mounts and stuff like that. If you solid mount your exhaust, you're going to ruin that gasket, and it's going to give you a vacuum leak, which is going to suck for trying to tune, and it's going to give you an exhaust leak, which is going to give you a headache. So, yeah, try and get this right, or just get really used to fiddling with these little fidgety triangle washers and stuff, because it's a known kind of issue that it's tough with such a long floaty manifold to. Luckily, the top part, the Super 6 part, is aluminum, so it's very light. When you've got two cast iron pieces, it's like a bear. But everything's clean and sort of free, so it won't be so bad to work on today. So back into the engine bay. Luckily, there's lots of room to work in here. I enjoy putting anti-seize on, well, everything, so don't worry, once you open the jar, it goes everywhere, but, although contacting surfaces, put some anti-seize, it'll make your hardware float the way it's supposed to, and then try and get it off. Good luck. Okay, the idea is to keep it loose and floaty, but not vacuum leaky, and it is a delicate balancing act, and you will mess it up. So you might as well just slap it on there and then spray it down when it's running, looking for vacuum leaks. Tighten it up a little, a little, a little, a little. Then you snap some studs off, and that's a party. It's not a party till you break something. Anyways, yeah. So very gentle. Err on the safe side, and then maybe snug it down a little bit later. And if it's not tight enough, it'll burn the exhaust. It's just impossible, and that's how they are. But have a couple extra exhaust ones. You used to be able to get some fancy aftermarket ones. If you see them, order a couple at a time to save on shipping if you're going to be working on these motors, because it is it's a weak spot. It's not like the worst kind of thing, but don't get all crazy if it's giving you problems. Get in there and put another gasket in. Don't run it and burn up a piston or something like that, for God's sakes. It's just an exhaust manifold gas.